Hey guys, it's Ashley and this is Downright Bookish, and today I'm going to be sharing some of my most anticipated books for the first quarter of 2020. So I'm just going to be putting these in order of publication date, so no really real order in terms of like categories, but yeah, there are about 7, I believe, books that I'm really excited about for the first 3 months of 2020. So let's get into the books. So the first 3 books come out on January 7th. So by the time this video comes out, they'll probably already be available to purchase. And the first one I want to talk about is Come Tumbling Down by Shonda McGuire. Again, this comes out on January 7th, and this is the 5th book in the Wayward Children series. So can't really go into much detail about this because obviously it's the 5th book in a series, but the Wayward Children series is a series of novellas that follow, like portal fantasy, that follow teenage children, and they're all very different, and it's a very diverse collection of stories, which I really enjoy. And the 5th book actually covers 2 of the main characters from the first book and what happened after the events of the first book. So I'm really excited to see how their story progresses. The next book is Woven in Moonlight by Isabel Ibanez, and this comes out on January 7th as well. This is a Bolivian inspired story, and I am really excited about it. I know this book has gotten a lot of hype already on BookTube, so it's probably on your radar already. This book follows Zemina, who is the Condessa, or stand-in for the last royal, and she has the ability to spin thread from moonlight. The last royal is betrothed, so she goes in as a stand-in, but is really looking for revenge for her family. So I think it's going to be an interesting story, and I'm really excited to check this one out. The 3rd book is one that I'm really excited about, Love Boat Taipei by Abigail King Nguyen, and this is kind of described as a Crazy Rich Asians kind of book, though looking at the synopsis, it seems slightly different than Crazy Rich Asians. But we follow our main character Ever, who is 18, and her parents send her off to Taiwan for the summer to basically attend this program where she's supposed to spend the time learning, developing her educational skills so she can come back and go to Ivy League college and all of that. But it turns out that the program she actually signed up for is more of like a young mingle and meet kind of club where they go to clubs, drink a lot, and it's an opportunity for Ever to finally be free of the strict kind of hold her parents have on her. So I'm interested to see how this goes. I love the idea of having a setting in Taiwan and what the kind of nightlife is like and what that experience would be like for an 18-year-old who has kind of lived a very sheltered and a very strict life. So very intrigued by this book. And the next book comes out on January 14th, and it's called Hitting a Straight Lick with a Crooked Stick. And this is a series of short stories by Zora Neale Hurston. I think this is kind of a collection of some of her stories that were published in anthologies and newspapers and things like that, and it's kind of all coming together. I know this collection has a lot to do with race, gender, also migration, and there's a romance in a lot of the stories, so I'm very excited about this. I absolutely love Zora Neale Hurston, and my favorite book of her is Their Eyes Were Watching God. I believe that's probably her most well-known piece of work, but I'm really excited for this. I've been wanting to read a lot more short story collections, and Zora Neale Hurston is definitely a perfect place for me to really get into short story collections again. So I'm really excited for this one to come out. And the final book I want to talk about in January is Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi, and this comes out on January 21st. I actually was given a copy of this book by Tor.com, so thank you so much for Tor for giving me a copy. I have it, it's in my house, but I don't want to go and get it, but I do have a physical copy of this book, which I'm so excited about. I'm going to be reading this one very soon and giving you a full review on it. But basically this is a very short novella that covers a dystopian world where these 2 brother and sister pair kind of have these special powers where the sister is able to see into the future. After her brother gets incarcerated for the sole reason of being black, she kind of has to determine what she wants to do to help him get out of the situation. So it seems like a very interesting story. I like the aspect of kind of combining a dystopian world with race. Also, there is this surreal, magical aspect to the story, which I'm very interested by. So I am going to be reading this one very soon. I'm so excited about it. And thanks again to Tor.com for giving me a copy to read. Okay, let's jump into the releases for February. I only have 2 that I'm really excited about. The first one comes out on February 4th, and it's called King and the Dragonflies by Kaysen Callender. And this book interests me for a lot of reasons personally, and also I'm very intrigued by the story. This follows our main character Kingston, who recently has a brother who passed away. I think the synopsis is kind of unclear how the brother died, but Kingston believes that his brother passed away and has now been basically reincarnated and turned into a dragonfly. So he's really interested and passionate about dragonflies. And then he has a friend who turns out to be gay, but his brother told him not to hang out with him. But he ends up hanging out with this boy because he finds out that this boy, his friend, is being abused by this father. So they run off together into the bayou and kind of explore themselves. And I think it's a coming of age story for both the boys, because one is obviously dealing with his sexuality, and the main character, Kingston, is dealing with the loss of his brother. So I'm really intrigued by this story, and I want to know how the dragonflies play a part into it. So the next book is actually another short story collection that I'm really excited about, and this one comes out on February 25th. The short story collection is called The Hidden Girl, and this is by Ken Liu. Ken Liu is the prolific writer who wrote another short story collection called The Meandere. I cannot pronounce that word for the life of me, but it has like the tiger, like a little tiger on the cover. I'll put it here. He also has a high fantasy series, which I have but have not read yet. I really enjoy Ken Liu's writing, so I'm really excited to see what this new short story collection has in hold. So definitely one of my most anticipated books of this quarter. Finally, let's get into the books for March. I have 3 books that I'm really excited about. The first book comes out on March 3rd, and it's called Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall. This is basically a series of essays that she's written that kind of talk about feminism and how she feels like feminism is lacking, and it kind of only serves a select few privileged females. So it deals with a lot of issues like how some females don't have access to feminine products when they're on their period, or don't have access to food or childcare and things like that. So this is going to be an interesting collection of essays. I'm really intrigued how she approaches it, because while I do believe those aspects of feminism are extremely important, I don't think it discredits some of the other arguments of feminism. So I'm interested to see how she approaches this topic, and I'm really excited about it because I do feel like that is kind of an issue that hasn't really been talked about, whereas feminism means a lot more than like female empowerment, and that it just also means providing females with the necessities that they need to survive. So I'm interested to see how this one goes, and it's actually I think one of the only nonfiction books that I have on here, so it's definitely one that I'm really intrigued by. On March 17th, The Conjure Woman by Afia Akakora comes out, and this is kind of gives me like homegoing feelings, though I haven't read Homegoing, but it follows 3 generations of females before and after the Civil War, and I think there are some magical elements to it. I think these females have some ability to perform magic, so I'm curious to see how this one goes. I am a little nervous because I tend not to really enjoy books that cover slave narratives, just because they really frustrate me, because I really just like those time periods, but I understand they need to be explored. But I'm curious to know how this one goes, and the synopsis is a little vague, so I want to see how this one turns out, and I've heard a lot of things about it, and it seems to be generating a lot of hype, not in booktube communities, but like in book communities in general. And the last book, which I am extremely excited about, this book comes out on March 26th, and it's called The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. N.K. Jemisin is probably one of my favorite authors of all time. I am obsessed with everything she writes. I really enjoyed her Inheritance trilogy and also the Broken Earth trilogy. N.K. Jemisin is pretty much an automatic buy for me. I will purchase any book she writes, and this one seems very interesting because I feel like it's it's a little outside of what she normally writes. So basically, this takes place in New York City, and every city, it kind of like the synopsis starts off, so it's like every city has a soul, New York City has 6. And I believe these 6 souls, so to speak, are like actual people kind of living in New York, but they're much more than people. They're also part of like this soul of New York City. So I'm curious to see how this one turns out, but I do really enjoy stories that follow multiple perspectives and follow different characters, and I know N.K. Jemisin does a fabulous job of writing really diverse characters, so I'm pretty sure that's what's going to be the forefront of this story. And I'm really curious how she writes a story that takes place much more in like a contemporary setting. I'm not sure if this takes place in present time or slightly in the future, but I have rarely seen a story where she writes about like our world versus like another world or something very far in the future. Those are the books that I am most anticipating for the first quarter of 2020. Let me know in the comments what books you're excited for, and I will see you guys soon with another video. Thanks for watching. Bye.